This changes everything for the Pittsburgh Steelers as we have multiple huge updates surrounding Aaron Rodgers and following what was a very scary injury in yesterday's game. We have some big updates on that front that you're going to want to stay tuned for. But not only that, we have multiple other updates as we approach now a crucial stretch of games in the next 3 weeks that determine the fate of the Steelers this season. A ton to go over on this episode, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into it all, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you guys are enjoying the daily Steelers content, it'd mean the world to myself if you could hit that subscribe button. Folks, ton to go over today, and obviously all eyes are now on Aaron Rodgers and what he's going to be able to do specifically next week and his availability. And we do have some updates that have dropped surrounding that. And let's start and kind of rewind a little bit here. So initially, of course, Aaron Rodgers left. He didn't return or didn't even come out of the locker room after halftime, I believe. And reports were starting to fly about a break in his wrist. So you can see this here from Adam Schefter, just to kind of give you guys the full timeline. So this was last night. The initial concern is that Rodgers has, in one word or words of one source, and keep in mind, we have an update from like moments ago, but a slight break in his left wrist. But the Steelers quarterback will undergo further testing today. So of course, this was a little bit scary. People were thinking, okay, is he actually going to be even able to play the rest of the year? Fans are speaking about Mason Rudolph, of course, being that guy. And then, last night after that, Ian Rappaport reports that Rodgers indicated to people close to him that he'll be back soon. Initial testing would support that, but more coming. So him and Tom Pelissero went into that. And then, of course, after all of that, this morning we got a big update from Ian Rappaport himself again. Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers dealing with a fracture in his left wrist. So the initial report was true, but it is a small fracture, and he has not been ruled out for Sunday and is pushing to play. And then, of course, we'll dive into the Ramsey and Jamar Chase incident a little bit in this video, but that'll probably be another video later tonight because everything is looking like Jamar Chase will get suspended for that. But, folks, there is a fracture in his wrist. Now, it is his left wrist, meaning, of course, it's not the wrist he's throwing with, but also he is pushing to play. So this is good news overall. I think at the end of the day here, yes, there was some concern that he was going to miss a lot of time. All these different things. There was no timeline for a little bit. He does have a fracture in his left wrist. It's not, a huge fracture. Again, there's different variations of a fracture. Yes, if a bone is fractured, it's fractured. There's hairline fractures. There's minor fractures, major fractures, entire breaks, all these different things. He is not ruled out for Sunday at this point. And he does have some more tests to do today, and whether he'll be able to play Sunday will be determined by if he can injure himself further and if he can get a grip of the football. He was described as 50-50 for Sunday. So, of course, we'll dive into the next 3 games. The one against the Bengals is super important, but there's a world here where if the Steelers win their next 3 games, they make the playoffs and win the division. If they lose the next 3, depending on how things shake up in the division and the wildcard spots, they can miss the playoffs. So each game matters a ton. And of course, I mentioned that it wasn't his throwing hand that the injury is occurring in. You still need to be able to grip the ball off of the snap, right? And that's obviously super, super important. And it would obviously be more difficult to throw, and he probably would already have been ruled out if it was in his right hand or his right wrist, sorry. But this is overall at least somewhat encouraging news, and it changes everything for this team. I mean, Arthur Smith's entire game plan, we've heard in the broadcast, we've heard from reports like Rodgers calls half the plays, like he has his own type of playbook, and so does Arthur Smith. So by now, if you have to, let's say, bring in Mason Rudolph again, he did good yesterday, then your entire playbook changes. The entire scheme changes. The way that wide receivers are used, the way the running game, and of course, in the case of their next opponent, all of that changes. Now, the next 3 games are against a decent Bears team, a good Bills team, and a good Baltimore Ravens team who are 1 game behind you in the divisional race. You can see here the Steelers' next 3 games, like I mentioned, win them all and win the division, lose them all, and you're probably not making the playoffs. And that's how crazy the swing is now. Like the Bengals are out of it. They're not a concern anymore, even with Joe Burrow potentially coming back. But you look at it from the perspective now of you have 3 games for your season, for your life here at this point. The Bears, that should be a winnable game. Buffalo and Baltimore, those are going to be 2 extremely tough games. And if you go 2-1, you have a decent chance of winning the division still, depending if one of those wins is against the Ravens. Because the Ravens, who almost lost to the Browns yesterday, they have Lamar Jackson back. They're healthier in their secondary. There was a while there where they were obviously one of the worst teams in the NFL because no Lamar Jackson, and their defense was absolutely riddled with injury. That's not the same team anymore. They are much better, and we know how good they're going to be. And then the question becomes, I know some fans were already saying I'd prefer to see Mason Rudolph play, all these different things. I think you have a better chance, and let me know down below if you agree. I think you have a better chance to win with Aaron Rodgers. I think it's pretty much that simple. He's obviously the veteran, and heading into the biggest 3 games of the season for the Steelers here, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with his health, because if you are unable to be I mean, if Rodgers is 75%, and again, it's a fractured wrist in his left hand, if he's struggling to grip the ball off of the snap, that could be a problem because you're going to need, and again, Mason Rudolph is a very capable backup quarterback. Is he a good starter in this league? I don't think so. Of course, the Steelers drafted him. He bounced around a little bit, but he's been with the Steelers most of his career. And even this year, he's had a pretty good, he had a pretty good game the other day, but Rodgers is not, he didn't have a great game, against the Chargers in the week before last week. And then last week, meaning yesterday, he wasn't looking good either. Like, Rudolph looked better, and you could argue they would have lost that game if Rodgers was still in the game. But again, I'm not trying to hate on Rodgers. I do love him. He's having a fantastic year. He loves being a Steeler. But Aaron Rodgers creating self-inflicted pressure versus the Bengals, this is becoming a pattern. Rodgers doesn't have the same play extension ability he used to, and he's making the Steelers O-line look worse than it is. Feel free to check out Tommy Jaggy on Twitter here. It's a very interesting clip, and I'm not able to show you guys the full clip, but there is something to be said. Of course, we know Aaron Rodgers isn't agile, but they were speaking about some of his injuries in the past and how Aaron Rodgers, he's not throwing the ball on a dime quite the way he needs to. There was a couple different times in yesterday's game, and especially in the Chargers game, where there is an open receiver, whether that be DK Metcalf, whether that be Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, Jonnu Smith, who rarely gets targeted. There was openings for them to catch the ball, and he's just overthrowing him. And there was a ton of wind yesterday. You saw him mouthing, "Screw this effing wind," or something like that, or the effing wind, blaming the wind for some of his throws. Rudolph comes in, and he looked pretty good. Like, he was throwing throwing dimes. They're running, sometimes just really quick, efficient plays. Not really play action, but quick, efficient plays. But also, you're at a point now with Mason Rudolph where he also has his flaws, right? And he missed DK Metcalf on an easy first down and tried to throw to the back of the end zone and threw it out so he didn't get sacked. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I do ultimately think that that's going to be crucial for him, is for Aaron Rodgers to be back to win these games. But if he's less than 100%, that'll be a serious question. Now, something else to be noted is Jaylen Warren, who's dealing with an injury. We didn't see him. We saw him back on, and they took him back out. Obviously, it didn't matter as much yesterday because Kenneth Gainwell looked fantastic, but Warren did confirm that he could have returned, but it was part of being smart. We got a lot of games ahead of us, so they're looking out for me. Now, I did mention earlier in the video they might have lost if Rodgers finished the game. Probably wouldn't have, because they won by like 30 or by 20 because of their defense. They put up over 30 points. But having Warren back is obviously, that's going to be needed. That'd be the biggest blow of them all, right? I'm fine with Mason Rudolph. If you have Kenneth Gainwell as your running back one, nothing against him. He's had a pretty rough year besides yesterday, but he had a great game yesterday. You have a serious problem. He's, if Jaylen Warren isn't available, I think he will be, and that's obviously a good sign. And we also saw some split safety action. So there was a lot of different movements going on with the safety position. You can see here the Steelers totally flipped their safety position around, with Ramsey moving to free safety, and they primarily changed from a single high team to a split safety team in the midseason. So Duggar was playing at the split safety spot. Results speak for themselves. Last 2 weeks, the defense is night and day. Defense was elite. Ramsey, despite getting spit in the face and getting ejected, unfortunately, he got spit on. So, I don't blame him, but he looked fantastic, and so did Kyle Duggar. He had a pick six, or he had an interception, sorry. Looks very, very good. Very, very, I'm excited. I'm excited for the next few weeks, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and also to see what happens with the Jamar Chase possible suspension, but we'll leave that for another video. I'm going to have a lot of thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.